these past 4 weeks, the trajectory of this program has really been on the rise, constantly improving. Today being ranked number 23 in the AP poll. Do you guys take that as any confirmation that you guys are playing your best football right now?
Not really. I mean, I don't think we ever look at somebody else's impression, of what we're doing for validation either way. And I think the biggest thing is our guys have come to work every day, like we talked about last night, and owned what's good, owned what's bad, and gone about their business. And now the trick is, after such an emotional game against a great opponent, is get ready for a very, very talented team. And you flip on the tape and you are quickly slapped in the face of how good SC is. And our guys will be excited for that challenge.
Mark, kind of on that same path, going back to maybe after the Utah game, do you see tangible differences in the way this team is performing now back to then? Obviously with the injury to Vernon made a big difference, but do you see tangible differences?
Yeah, I think everybody just playing with more confidence, playing fast and free. We're still making a ton of mistakes. We've still played, great at times on some units. We've played poorly at times on some units. And the trick is, again, playing through that as a team and coming out in the end as a team, just like last night.
Brian?
Mark, last year you went through it on a lesser scale after the Arizona game, but is it gratifying for you after the 3-3 start to get to where you guys are now as a coach, to see a team turn things around instead of go the other way?
Well, you just can't sit there at any point and take a deep breath and be satisfied with anything, of whether it's academics or all the other stuff behind the scenes that goes on. You're constantly doing something, constantly trying to get better at your job and everybody else's deal. And so I don't think there's ever a time, again, really ever in this business, where you sit back and go, hey, we're done, we're good, and that's again, got to get the right people around you, players, coaches, all those things, to buy into that type of deal and continue to improve. And hopefully we have a ton of football ahead.
What about players, though? Do you think they have any different level of appreciation for victories the last few weeks, given what they went through? I mean, in the past couple of years, you experienced so much success. Given how things went the first few weeks of this season, do you think the last couple of weeks have even been more gratifying that way?
Well, I think that's the total, and we talked about this last week, the total belief and commitment to a process is when you work at that process without a tangible result, without a positive tangible result. And that's commitment. When you are committed to the process and things aren't great, it's just like raising kids. Sometimes you have to do things that aren't fun or aren't great, but that's going to benefit them down the road. So it's an easier sell maybe to an 18, 19-year-old kid to go, oh, okay, that does work. It helps you win, or helps you get a good grade, or helps you do whatever. But hopefully we're in this for the long haul.
Andrew, Chantel, you have a question?
I've got one. I'll jump in.
Go ahead, Chantel.
All right. Mark, I was curious, Darren Carrington has been such a huge part of your guys' offense for the past month. Were you at all surprised by how quickly the chemistry came between him and Vernon on the field?
Not really. Darren's a very good football player, and Chantel, perfect segue into our players of the game. Then I'll finish up. But the offensive player of the game was Darren Carrington. Had a huge block that sprung Evan Bayless for a bunch more yards. Had a couple other big time blocking efforts, as well as the receiving part of it. In the offensive scout of the week, we actually had two of them: Drayton Carlberg and Spencer Stark. Defensive players of the game were where are we at here? Rodney Hardrick and Joe Walker. Defensive scout of the week was Jet Janis. And a special note to all the offensive line. And then the special teams player of the game was Matt Wogan, 7 of 7 in kickoffs into the end zone, 5 touchbacks. Is huge of keeping the ball out of McCaffrey's hands as much as possible. And then Taylor Stinson was the scout player scout special teams player of the week. And then Vernon kind of has that chemistry with everybody of the broken play, the playground kind of play that those guys have made a ton of, and he and Darren have hooked up big time.
Andrew?
Going back to the media day, Pac-12 media day in the fall, you said you did not want to see this USC team because they were just loaded with talent. Obviously, they've gone through a similar thing you have this year, overcome quite a few obstacles. Is this still the same team that you were so impressed by in August?
Oh yeah, they're exceptional. The skill guys everywhere. I think there are so many guys very similar to Stanford. A lot of guys that we tried to recruit, and so there's a lot of familiarity with who they are. Kessler is a tremendous player. Their defense is getting better and better. Had a couple, whatever you want to say, hiccups there. The Notre Dame game had some big plays against them, but there's also guys involved there on the other team too that are pretty good. But yeah, they are outstanding in every phase. Dory Jackson is kind of their Charles Nelson, that plays offense, plays defense, plays special teams, and does it all at a very, very high level.
When you look back at Stanford from last night, the tape, obviously there was a lot of big plays you wouldn't remember. What jumped out to you, good or bad, from the win?
Well, I think there's a lot more good than bad to beat a team like that. I thought just again how we competed, especially defensively, stayed confident, played with all, not without exception, but most of the time with great pad level. We tackled fairly well, and just kept playing. The play of the game probably was Kenai Benoit running down the I guess that was ruled a fumble. That's why I was confused last night on that question. I thought it was a pick, but Kenai not quitting, and that was a huge play. Defense holds him to a field goal. Huge turn of events, and then a bunch of great efforts in special teams. Great job protecting on that last punt. Devin Allen finishing the play down there, putting their corner kind of in McCaffrey's lap and making the tackle, and then obviously Joe Walker finishing off there at the end, among others.
Mark, it all starts in practice. Can you go back to last week and maybe talk about how well your coaching staff coached those guys up? Because certainly it transitioned into the game. The new defensive front that you ran, and just all holding McCaffrey down, limited his yards. Down. But maybe talk about that.
Yeah, I thought, again, that's something that's kind of behind the scenes that goes on every week, that needs to be talked about more. Is your scout teams are your lifeblood. If those guys aren't great, you don't have confidence in anything. You don't have confidence in your defense, in your special teams, and your offense. Because if it's phony, if it's just, hey, we're going to run this on air, everybody knows that. And if it's not a great look, that whole urgency and confidence is not there. So defensively, we have enough similarity, enough carryover for our kind of our norm. We can call our looks similar to what they present. So that wasn't as big, but offensively for them, you're getting 6 O-linemen, 7 O-linemen and a fullback. Particular numbers of those guys, particular numbers of they do certain things in this 12 personnel group and this other 12 personnel group, and to get that coordinated, they did a fantastic job. We had multiple defensive groups, and we had the one substitution error there at the end coming out of a timeout, which was just that's 100% on us. But for the most part did very well, and that's a direct result of having confidence in it.
Joey in the back.
On that pass play to Taj Griffin, looked like he followed his blocks really well, let that one develop. I think he had one where he maybe could have made a different cut and then didn't earlier in this year and got taken down. I guess how indicative is that in his growth over the course of this season as a runner, ball vision, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, he just needs plays and experience. And that's one of the hard things for a guy like that, or a guy like Kirk Merritt, or even Kenai or Tony to a certain extent, is we've got Royce Freeman's a really good back. Kenai is playing at a very high level. We've got Charles that we're mixing in there, all these Braylon, some other guys, and so when they're in there, they want every play they want it to be a touchdown, and like we talked about earlier in the season, his first instinct is to bounce. That's every fast guy's first instinct, is to be a fast guy, and think you're going to outrun everybody. And yeah, there was one point where he could have put his foot on the ground and knifed it, but it was great to see the very next time he had the ball in his hands of just going out there and playing. And so his best days are ahead of him, absolutely.
how have the dynamics changed in terms of play calling defensively with John Neal up in the booth and Don Pullum on the sidelines?
The play calling part of it hasn't changed much. It's more of the feedback, between series, the recognitions of things as plays happen. That's a different dialogue just because the voices are different, but nothing from a logistical or schematic standpoint.
After your game, Utah lost at Arizona. Colorado almost beat USC. All your games seem to come down to the final possession. What's it like living through this parity? And
Washington State, UCLA.
Is it a good thing for the conference?
Well, that could be argued in a number of ways, but it's a tremendously difficult conference. As we talked about back in at media day, we expected something like this could happen and might happen, and nobody's undefeated, and I don't think anybody's surprised by that, unfortunately. Good or bad, up to you.
Chantel, Andrew, anything else?
I'm good.
Thanks.
I guess we're good. Thanks.